My name is Rebecca Morgan, and last Monday I stood in front of 300 employees in the headquarters of what used to be Dalton Financial Group. They were nervous, uncertain, waiting to hear if they still had jobs after the acquisition. I looked at the front row and saw him. Greg Dalton, my former boss, sitting where I used to sit during his meetings. The man who fired me 4 years ago for refusing to falsify audit reports now worked for me. I adjusted the microphone and smiled. Good morning. I'm Rebecca Morgan, CEO of Integrity Solutions. As of today, you all work for a company that values honesty over profit. Let me tell you what that means. But this story doesn't start with victory. It starts with a choice I made in a conference room that cost me everything I'd built. 4 years ago, I was the senior compliance officer at Dalton Financial Group, a mid-sized investment firm in Boston. I'd worked there for 6 years, climbing from junior analyst to one of Greg Dalton's most trusted employees. Or so I thought. I made a comfortable salary, had a corner office, and genuinely believed we were helping clients build secure financial futures. Greg was charismatic, ambitious, the kind of leader who inspired loyalty. He built Dalton Financial from a small startup into a firm managing over $2 billion in assets. Everyone wanted to work for him. I was proud to be part of his inner circle. Then I started noticing discrepancies. Small things at first. Client reports that didn't match our internal records. Risk assessments that seemed optimistic compared to actual market positions. I mentioned it to Greg casually, thinking it was an error in our systems. He thanked me for catching it, said he'd look into it. 2 weeks later, he called me into his office. He closed the door, which he rarely did, and handed me a file. Rebecca, I need you to review these quarterly reports before they go to the board. Just make sure the numbers align with our projections. I opened the file. The numbers didn't align. They were inflated. Returns overstated by 3 to 5% across multiple client portfolios. Risk exposure significantly underreported. I looked up at him. Greg, these figures don't match our actual performance. If I sign off on this, we're misrepresenting our position to investors. He leaned back in his chair, that charming smile still in place. Rebecca, you're being too literal. These are projections based on expected market corrections. We're not lying. We're being optimistic. Every firm does this. It's how you maintain investor confidence during volatile periods. But clients are making decisions based on these reports. If the numbers are wrong, the numbers aren't wrong, they're strategic. His smile faded slightly. I need someone I can trust to see the bigger picture here. Someone who understands that sometimes protecting the firm means presenting information in the most favorable light. Can you do that? I looked at the reports again. Saw my signature line at the bottom. Understood exactly what he was asking me to do. No, I can't sign these. They're inaccurate. If you want to revise them to reflect our actual position, I'm happy to review them again. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Greg stood up, walked to the window, hands in his pockets. When he turned back, the charm was completely gone. I've invested 6 years in your career, Rebecca, given you opportunities, promotions, trust. And this is how you repay that investment? By questioning my judgment? I'm not questioning your judgment. I'm telling you I can't certify false information. That's my job. That's what compliance means. Your job is whatever I tell you it is. Sign the reports. I can't. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone, made a call I couldn't hear, and 2 minutes later, HR Director Janet Kilmer walked in with a security guard. Greg didn't even look at me. Rebecca's employment is terminated, effective immediately. Insubordination and refusal to fulfill essential job functions. Have her escorted out. I stood there, stunned. Greg, you're firing me for doing my job correctly? I'm firing you for being incapable of understanding what your job actually requires. Janet will handle your severance. Security will walk you out.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on bell notification to stay updated for more revenge stories.
I was given 15 minutes to pack my office while a guard watched. My colleagues avoided eye contact. No one said goodbye. I walked out of that building, carrying a box of my belongings and the weight of knowing I'd just chosen ethics over my career. Have you ever made a decision that felt right and terrible at the same time? Let me know in the comments. The next month was dark. I applied to every financial firm in Boston. But Greg had connections. Everywhere I interviewed, the conversation would go well until they called for references. Then suddenly the position was filled, or they'd gone in a different direction. I was being blacklisted, and everyone knew it. I burned through my savings, lost my apartment, moved into my sister's spare room, and tried to figure out what to do with a career that had been destroyed for telling the truth. That's when I got angry. Not bitter, purposeful. I started documenting everything I remembered from Dalton Financial. Every discrepancy, every questionable report, every conversation that had made me uncomfortable. I reached out to former colleagues quietly, found 3 others who'd left after similar experiences. Together, we had enough evidence to file a complaint with the Securities and Exchange Commission. The SEC investigation took 8 months. During that time, I worked as a freelance consultant, barely making rent, wondering if I'd made a catastrophic mistake. Then the SEC announced findings of systematic fraud at Dalton Financial. Falsified reports, misrepresented assets, breach of fiduciary duty. Penalties exceeded $15 million. Greg's license was suspended. The firm's reputation was shattered. I didn't celebrate. I was too busy building something new. Because while I was waiting for the investigation to conclude, I'd been developing a business plan. A compliance consulting firm built on a radical idea. What if integrity was actually profitable? What if companies could succeed by being transparent, ethical, and trustworthy? I called it Integrity Solutions. I launched with $5,000, a laptop, and one client who believed in what I was trying to build. That first year, I worked 100-hour weeks, taking any project I could get. Small businesses who needed help with regulatory compliance, startups that wanted to build ethical frameworks from the beginning. I hired carefully. Only people who'd been fired or pushed out for refusing to compromise their values. We became known as the firm for whistleblowers and truth-tellers. Our reputation grew quietly but steadily. Companies started seeking us out, not just for compliance, but for the credibility we brought. The turning point came 2 years in. A major bank was facing a potential scandal and needed an independent audit they could actually trust. They hired us. We found problems, reported them accurately, and helped them fix the issues before they became public. That transparency saved them hundreds of millions in penalties and restored investor confidence. Our fee was significant, but the referrals that followed were invaluable. Within 3 years, Integrity Solutions had 40 employees and offices in 3 cities. We specialized in financial compliance, forensic accounting, and ethical business practices. Our client retention rate was 98%. Not because we told clients what they wanted to hear, but because we told them the truth and helped them build stronger businesses because of it. We were profitable, growing, respected. Everything Greg said was impossible without cutting corners was happening because we refused to cut them.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on bell notification to stay updated for more revenge stories.
The market was rewarding integrity. Who knew? Then 6 months ago, I got a call from an investment banker I knew. Dalton Financial was collapsing. The SEC penalties had been just the beginning. Clients had fled, lawsuits were mounting, and Greg had made desperate decisions that only accelerated the decline. The firm was up for sale. Rock bottom price. Most of the infrastructure intact, but the brand was toxic. The banker asked if I'd be interested in acquiring it. My first instinct was no. Why would I want anything to do with that place? But then I thought about the employees still there. Good people who'd been trapped in a bad system. About the clients who'd been deceived. About the poetic justice of rebuilding what corruption had destroyed. I spent 2 weeks analyzing their books, their structure, their remaining assets. Then I made an offer. We'd acquire Dalton Financial for $8 million. We'd keep any employees who wanted to stay and met our ethical standards. We'd contact every former client and offer transparent reviews of their accounts. We'd rename it and rebuild it as a subsidiary of Integrity Solutions. The deal closed 30 days ago. Last Monday was the first all-staff meeting under new ownership. I walked into the headquarters where I'd been escorted out 4 years earlier, now as the owner. The conference room was packed. 300 faces, most of them anxious about their futures. Greg was there. He'd been demoted to senior analyst as part of the acquisition terms, His equity dissolved, his title stripped. He had to sit there because he needed the job, because no one else would hire him after the scandal. The same position he'd put me in, but without the ethics that made me valuable. I stood at the front and looked at them. Really looked at them. These weren't enemies. They were people who'd worked in a toxic system and were scared about what came next. Good morning. I'm Rebecca Morgan, CEO of Integrity Solutions. As of today, you all work for a company that values honesty over profit. Let me tell you what that means. I spent the next hour outlining our values, our expectations, and our vision. No more falsified reports. No more cutting corners. No more pressure to choose between your job and your conscience. I told them about the 3 people I'd hired who'd been fired from this very company for refusing to lie. They were now senior directors in my firm. Then I addressed the elephant in the room. Some of you are wondering about leadership changes. Greg Dalton will remain as senior analyst, reporting to our new director of client services. His expertise in market analysis is valuable. His previous leadership approach is not. He's agreed to these terms. Anyone else who can't commit to operating with complete integrity has 30 days to find other employment with full severance. No hard feelings. But this firm's culture changes today. After the meeting, Greg approached me. He looked older, tired, smaller than I remembered. Rebecca, I just want to say that I understand why you're doing this, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to stay. I looked at him. The man who destroyed my career for telling the truth, now grateful I was letting him keep his job. Greg, I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because 300 people deserve to work for a company they can be proud of, including you. But if you ever ask anyone here to compromise their integrity, you're done. Understood? He nodded. Understood. I walked back to my office. The same office I'd packed up 4 years ago, now redesigned, reorganized, and occupied by someone who'd built an empire on the principle that honesty isn't a liability. It's a competitive advantage. Over the next month, we transformed the culture. 23 people left, unable or unwilling to meet our standards. 277 stayed. We contacted every former Dalton client, offered independent reviews of their accounts, and corrected years of misleading information. Some sued. Most appreciated the transparency and stayed. Within 6 months, the firm was stable. Within a year, it was growing. Clients started choosing us specifically because of our reputation for truth. We weren't the biggest firm, we weren't the flashiest, but we were the one you could trust. And in an industry built on trust, that was everything. Now, when I walk through those hallways, I see something Greg never built. A company where people don't have to choose between their paycheck and their principles. Where compliance isn't a department that gets pressured, it's a value that gets celebrated. Where success is measured not just in profit, but in the number of clients who sleep better at night, knowing their money is handled honestly. Greg still works here. He does good work, actually. Turns out when you remove the pressure to lie, some people can be valuable contributors. He'll never lead again. He'll never have my trust. But he has a job, and maybe that's its own kind of mercy. Last week, a young analyst came to my office. She'd found a discrepancy in a client report. Small thing, easily overlooked. She was nervous, said she wasn't sure if she should mention it. I smiled and told her that reporting problems is exactly what we celebrate here. That her integrity just made her more valuable, not less. She left looking relieved. I watched her go and thought about that moment 4 years ago when I'd made the same choice. When I believed that honesty would cost me everything. I was right about the cost. I lost my job, my savings, my apartment, my reputation, but I'd gained something more valuable. The knowledge that my principles weren't negotiable. And that foundation, that unshakable integrity, had become the cornerstone of something Greg's shortcuts could never build. An empire built on truth, where the only thing you have to falsify is nothing at all. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to watch more revenge and inspiring stories that will make you excited like this one. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let us know what you think about this story.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on bell notification to stay updated for more revenge stories.